We're having open and honest conversations about mental health and well-being. We should talk about it with Maira Ansari on Wave Now.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me here on Wave Now's We Should Talk About It. I'm Maira Ansari. Joining me now is the director of the Mental Health Louisville is Amanda Villaveces. Did I say it right?
You got it.
Great, awesome. And today we are talking about suicide awareness. We recently, about a month ago, we lost a Wave photojournalist. It was heartbreaking. Same as Josh Whitney, and he died by suicide on April 20th. He was just 26 years old. He joined our Wave family in 2021. And he passed away April 20th. And this was devastating for us. Josh Whitney was just 36 years old, and he loved what he did. He struggled with severe depression and anxiety for years. And I think this job, nobody really kind of sometimes prepares us for how hard it can be, and it did take a toll on him as well. He loved his dog, Lakota. If you met Josh, he always talked about Lakota. And when he passed away, it was devastating for us because we all wish that we could have done something. We all wish that he would have known how much he meant to us. Josh always would say something kind to people and never said anything bad about anyone, and we really miss him every day. I actually just looked up some video for a story that I was working on it, and it had his initials next to it, and it really just made me think of him. He's with us for forever, and I wish he knew, Amanda, how much he has had an impact on us, and we miss him so much. And you think this hit us really hard because it was so close. We talk about suicide all the time, but it hit differently for us.
Absolutely. I actually had the privilege of meeting Josh a handful of times
You
at different
did?
events and things like that. He came and shot Mindfest our first year, and then, we had a few text exchanges about mental health and resources in town, etc. And he was really nice guy.
Really nice guy. And Josh would always tell me, I'm so glad, Maira, you talk about mental health because it is something that I'm passionate about. And he would always talk about how he wished that there wasn't this stigma with it. Some of the things that Josh had said, and it was in his obituary that I wanted to share with you all, that everyone is going through something that we know nothing about. It's our job to be kind. The world has enough ugliness. We don't have to contribute to that. That's so true. It's so true.
Yeah.
And, he woke up every day thanking God, prayer to God to get him through another day, and he really tried to fight to be happy. So we miss him, and I hope with this tragedy that we can talk about suicide awareness and let people know that there are resources out there. There's hope that you can get. You are not alone. In mental health, you deal with this quite a bit. What are you seeing over the years, Amanda? How are things changed?
Yeah. So one positive piece, we're seeing a lot more prevention. We're seeing a lot more people talking about it. And that is one of the most important pieces of prevention, is that we're having open conversations, giving people space to say, I feel depressed. I feel like I'm really going through something, or I'm having these thoughts. Sometimes people don't always talk about these suicidal thoughts, so because they can feel really scary. They can feel like something maybe you want to keep as a secret because you don't, people are worried sometimes maybe what would be the repercussions if I share this information.
Will I lose my kids? Will my spouse leave me? There's so many thoughts that people think that will happen.
Yeah, and coming to a space now where people are much more open, obviously we have a lot of growth to have, but that people are much more willing to talk about it. There are more spaces to talk about it. The city we have a lot more QPR trainings, which is question, persuade, refer. So trainings for lay people like you and me who, if we see a colleague and we might kind of wonder how they're doing, you might, check in with them and get, see if you can get some information and giving them resources. There's also a program called Talk Saves Lives from the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. and the whole thing is about talking to other people,
Yeah.
you know, asking the scariest question, which is, are you thinking about suicide?
And that may feel like an intrusive question, right?
Absolutely.
I may feel like I'm going to insult you if I ask you this question.
Yes.
But it's an important question to ask.
Yeah, and you know what? If a person they're going to feel relief, right? They're going to maybe, even if they don't show it right away, they might feel like they might have a little window to say, oh my gosh, I am. Can we talk about it? And if they're not, they'll let you know, right? But maybe that opens up another conversation. Maybe it's not, I'm having thoughts of suicide as much as I'm extremely anxious, or I'm worried about something else, or I've been feeling low about this, or I'm burnt out, you know? So it can open up a bigger, broader conversation.
You know, things that we experience in life, Amanda, they can be exhausting, whether it's work, whether it's family, whether it's marriage, whether it's kids, whether it's, you name it. I mean, the list is on and on. It can be hard some days to wake up and feel like, okay, I'm going to get up today. I'm going to try to put one foot forward and progress through. But I think sometimes we don't realize all of the people around us that want to see us thrive, and they want to see, you know, that's what I think about Josh. Like, I wish he would have known how many people that this has impacted around him, because we miss him. We wish he hadn't turned to this decision.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that, as you say, like having those touch points with people, those check-in moments, whether it's with a colleague, with a friend, if you are a manager at a company, you might feel like that's not really my place, but to be able to kind of just say, like, how are you doing today? You know, or as you know, we talk about the workload, the burnout, things that people are experiencing. Burnout doesn't necessarily mean that someone is feeling suicidal.
Sure.
But what we do know is that typically when someone dies by suicide, it's not a split overnight decision. It's a buildup of multiple things. It could be a breakup, it could be job loss, plus, you know, a handful of other life events that are stacking up. And so it can be really helpful to, you know, check in on people and just kind of say, how are you doing? And letting people know, I care about you, I appreciate you, you know. That might feel a little odd as colleagues. And we do have, you know, we have our, like, where's the professional line? But
Yeah.
to be able to say even just, hey, I really appreciated the work you did the other day. That was really good work, very thoughtful.
And you know what? Josh always made it a point to tell people, hey, you're doing a great job. Always stopped and told people. And, you know, I wonder, did we do that enough for him? Did we, he was so good about telling people how great they were, that there's so much guilt. There's so much guilt that you think, did I talk enough? Did I, when he spoke with me, did I give him my 100% attention? Was I authentic in that moment? You know, and it's not about me but it's you feel really guilty.
Yeah, well, and what you're doing is a really common response to when we've lost somebody by suicide, which is going back, rolling the tapes back, going, wait, where did I miss it? Because you want to prevent it. You want it to prevent it from happening again. You didn't want it to happen in the first place, of course, but thinking back, is there anything different I could have done, could have said, could have, you know, and that's just a very normal kind of like thought process that people will have. And, you know, hopefully you don't get stuck in the spiral of that as much as maybe like finding ways of moving forward, you know, like your whole organization has done a really great job, I think, of committing to talking about it, you know, bringing it to the forefront, having those conversations. And the more you do that, especially people like you who have a platform, you know.
Thank you.
Even something like changing it to died by suicide is really important, just language.
Language matters. And, you know, we may not realize it, that the wording of what we say, how it can impact somebody. There are resources out there. We have come, as you said, some ways. We still have a lot of work to do. You know, even as a news organization, sometimes we don't cover suicides because the thought mentality behind it over the years has been, well, we don't want to encourage it. So let's not talk about it. Sometimes it's that sweep it under the rug. It's not
Right.
happening, and let's just move on.
Yeah.
Which is, as we have learned, looking at the numbers, looking at the people, that is not the right way to go all the time. And we have to really reframe the way that we look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know based on the 2022 coroner's report, we had 183, I believe, suicides in Louisville in that year. And I don't really recall any of them being talked about, and I think you're exactly right, that people do have this fear that if we talk about it, it's going to be, it might encourage other people. We don't want to plant ideas or anything like that. But really, it's the lack of conversation that makes it so, like it stays stuck in this person's head. It stays stuck in their feelings. And they're just then trying to solve this problem on their own. And they really need support.
You can always there are resources, especially with the work that you do with Mental Health Lou. Tell us about the resources that are out there. If you are struggling, if you know somebody who's struggling, you're not alone. There are things out there that you can do.
Yeah, and I want to point out too that again, like there's sort of this gradient. There's this spectrum of people feeling or dealing with maybe suicidal thoughts, like suicidal ideation. It's not necessarily immediately like, I have a plan, this is what's going to happen, as much as maybe it's just like a little thought that pops into your head one day, and maybe that's a scary thought to you, so you can start by talking to therapists. Mental Health Lou, one thing we do is we connect people to therapists to help them find, who's going to fit your insurance, or if you don't have insurance, here's how to find free counseling.
And that's one thing, Amanda, I want you to tell folks more about. If you feel like, well, I can't afford a therapist, I don't have the time, there are still ways that you can get some help.
Absolutely, yes. So yeah, there are actually a handful of free counseling opportunities in Louisville. I know that my colleague and my good friend Lauren Meir and Renisha Martin, who own Martin & Meir, they right now actually have 3 free sessions that they can offer to people. And you have to live in specific zip codes, but if you go to their website, you can find that out. And that actually comes with, if you're familiar with Tip It Forward, so it comes with body work as well. So you get massages and you get therapy, like how great is that?
We have to take care of ourselves, right? There's no shame in that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And our feelings aren't just feelings. Our feelings do impact our body.
Absolutely.
It's all one unit here.
Exactly.
But yeah, so there are plenty of free counseling opportunities for people. And if they can't find it, I know it can be hard, it can be confusing, like they are welcome to, contact us and we can help them navigate that system. And then of course, there are, maybe if you are at a place where it feels more imminent, it feels much more pressing, there's of course like 988, which is a much more immediate contact with a human all hours of the day.
It's not like an automated recording.
No.
You will talk to a person.
Exactly. And actually I believe 7 counties has counselors who are answering those phones. And then there are plenty of also organizations out there that are really great organizations to get involved with, to connect with, where you can kind of have those conversations and we can break this stigma around mental health. And as I mentioned earlier, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention is one that is amazing, and they do a lot of great work.
And I put a link to that here on our stream as well. If you're joining us, if you have a question for Amanda, if you want to share something with us, if you've lost somebody to suicide, please share your story with us. And there's no shame in it. If you are feeling down and you need help, we want to be here and listen to you and get you the proper resources. I put links on this stream, so please click on them if you need help. You mentioned that sometimes it's not immediate, the signs. What are some signs that people can look out for?
Well, some of the signs can be isolation. They can be, we really start to worry maybe if people are giving stuff away, or if you're seeing kind of that hopelessness, helplessness, some of that language that's coming out. But again, some of those pieces can be what's happening in that person's life. Did they recently have a job loss and a breakup? And, maybe there's some big life things that have happened that are impacting, that could very well impact them or make them feel very hopeless.
And maybe we talk about suicide and veterans, the PTSD that they experience, how much we see it in that population as well.
Yeah, actually, MindFest, which is the mental health festival that we have coming up this Sunday, conveniently, we actually have a panel of 8 veterans who are going to be on there talking about their experiences. And of course, we're going to talk about PTSD, and we're going to talk about suicidal ideation. When we've experienced trauma, that is a very hard thing to live with, you know? And depending on how you're experiencing that trauma, how you're coping with it, maybe if you've received, if you're receiving services for it or not, that can make life very difficult, right? Very hard to, as you say, like kind of wake up every day and go live this life, but you're walking around with this very heavy thing that a lot of people maybe don't know about.
There are more people than you probably realize who are walking around with that heaviness, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Does it ever surprise you when you meet somebody? Like sometimes I think, I thought they had it all together. They had everything, they've got a house, a car, a job, blah, 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 kids, everything is, everything, the window dressing looks great.
Yeah, sometimes we're really surprised because maybe somebody's like really great at masking their depression, their feelings. But sometimes if you think about that too, like that kind of situation where everything looks great can really put you in a corner to where you maybe don't feel like it's okay to say everything's not great, And for those people, I would say, like, please talk about it. Say that everything's not great, Even if maybe you're just starting by going to a third party like a therapist where you say it in the, in the confidential space of their office before you feel comfortable talking about it with other people, But like finding someone that you can talk about it with is really important.
For those that have never, I openly say I've been through therapy. I've done it virtually. I've done it in person. You make time for it. It can make a world of a difference. But for someone who has never done it and they feel like, therapy, opening up, that's just like talking about my feelings, no way.
Right.
Like there's so many, so much that goes with it. But, it's really not as horrible as you think. And it's just, sometimes you just need to say everything, even as ugly as it may feel and sound, but you just gotta say it. Like I have a girlfriend, she's like, I just have to say this, and I know it's so horrible and ugly, and I'm like, it's okay, I'm not judging you, just say it. It's okay. But like sometimes you just gotta say it.
Well, and if you think about it, when you're kind of got stuff swirling around in your head, that's creating like a little echo chamber. But when you say it out loud, you're reprocessing it. You're hearing yourself say it, which can really help with you, processing information, processing feelings, and therapy is really great for being with, like I said, that third party who's like, I'm not in your life. I don't know all this, I don't have an opinion on this.
I'm not judging you.
I'm not judging you. Yeah. I'm just here for you to have this space to talk about what's going on, and I'm going to reflect. And, and everybody's, keep in mind, like therapists, there's a, I was going to say, therapists are like dogs. There's a million breeds, right?
And you have to find the one,
yours.
Find the one that fits you. Really.
Exactly.
That is so true. I've had friends who'd said, you know what, I went to a therapist and it was a waste of my time. And I said, okay, don't give up. Try somebody else. It's like finding a shoe, right?
Yeah,
you got to find the right shoe that fits and that's comfortable.
So we've compared them to dogs and shoes.
Dogs and shoes.
Yes. And as a therapist, I'm fine with it.
That's good. Because it really is that. It's like you can't make friends with everybody, right? No. You got to find somebody that you're comfortable with.
Right.
And it is somebody that gets you,
Yeah. And I think that's one thing about Mental Health Lou that I love is as a therapist, I saw this, we saw this gap where people, my friends were even saying, how do I find a good therapist? And I'm thinking, really, how do you not know how to find a good therapist?
Yeah.
And seeing these gaps in our community, that was part of the reason that we were like, we are going to help people find a therapist. Because, you can email us and give us not just your availability and maybe your insurance, but you can also tell us, like, what kind of personality do you work well with? Or what are you looking for in a therapist,
And it could be things like, your race, your religion, where you grew up. All of those things can make a big difference on how you open up with somebody, right?
Absolutely, yes.
So that can...
Yeah. I moved here from California and have that in my profile. And a handful of my clients have said, I saw you were from California. And because Louisville is Louisville, they were like, you're not from here, so you probably don't know all the people yet. And I didn't, of course, so that was maybe one of the reasons they came to me. They're like, oh, you're an absolute outsider, so great,
Yeah. And, there are faith-based mental health experts if you need to find someone who believes in what you believe, or, if you are African American, you need an African American therapist. Those resources are there.
Yes, there are bilingual therapists. There are therapists who do art therapy and expressive arts therapy, movement and dance and music, and there's just this really wide range. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily know that. And I think it's you're gonna find a fit.
Yeah.
So there's over 1,000 therapists in Louisville.
Yeah.
You're gonna find something.
You gotta just
promise.
try.
Yeah.
For the people out there that are thinking, no one's going to miss me. I'm doing everybody a favor. Even saying that just hurts to say that.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I wonder if Josh thought that, and that's not the case, because we miss him. But those are some thoughts that people go through.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes, that isolation is so hard, and and the more you isolate yourself, the more you believe that thought, and you isolate yourself more and more, then it can become what feels like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Do you convince yourself?
Yeah, I think in a way you can, right? You can convince yourself, see, here's the evidence. I reached out to that person and they didn't reply. Or
I screwed up here once again. I didn't get it right.
Absolutely. So sometimes it's it's a matter of reminding people. I'll tell my clients sometimes, don't believe everything you think, maybe you believe it in this moment, but remind yourself, let's take a pause and see if I believe it in 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 2 days from now. Because sometimes, just like having a cold, it will pass, right? These feelings can pass, and you also can gain perspective. So if you have that feeling, and maybe you've had that feeling for a really long time, again, talking to somebody about it. It doesn't have to always be a therapist, but in this case, if somebody's feeling isolated, it might be. But having those opportunities to talk to somebody about it, again, so you can kind of get perspective or challenge it, see what's actually within your control. Have you been isolating yourself because you have these beliefs? Or is there something that maybe you could do, or connections you could make, so that you can kind of find a support?
I think just kind of what you said, Amanda, everything passes at some point. The pain you feel from that divorce, the pain you feel from losing that job, or the pain of disappointing people, all of it will get better. It just takes a little bit of time.
Absolutely.
And we should afford ourselves that grace, right? Not be so hard on ourselves.
Yeah. I think as humans, we hate being uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
And when you're experiencing depression, it can feel like that discomfort's going to last forever. But there are treatments, there are tools, there are ways to kind of help nudge that. Or if you're living with chronic pain, a lot of times people who live with chronic pain
Good point.
feel like there's no way out, there's no solution. But again, there are some tools out there, and there's a million different ways to treat things. And I know sometimes you don't always feel like you have the energy to do that, but that's maybe where you rally your support group a little bit too.
What does suicide do to the people around us? I think we've gotten experienced that, and I think. Gosh, I wasn't even nearly as close to Josh as some of my coworkers were. We worked different shifts, so I didn't see him a whole ton. But it was just oh my God,
oh, absolutely.
How does it impact family? How does it impact friends, coworkers, people in your circle?
Yeah. So, one thing that's, I think, important is that people who have lost someone to suicide come together to support each other, because as I said, these major life changes that can add up sometimes there can be a suicide after suicide because, especially like within families or partnerships, because it's such a great loss. It's such a hardship. And so
you feel like you can't go on.
Absolutely. So it's, and you mentioned earlier, like there can be feelings of guilt. There can be feelings of this like ruminating, what did I do? What didn't I do? What could I have done? What will I do differently? So I really think it's important to come back together as a group as much as you can, like it seems like your team has, to be able to talk about it and connect. I serve on the Suicide Fatality Review Board for Louisville, and one thing we talk about is like, what are the teams and what are the questions that these teams ask when they do follow-ups, because they have to follow up with the family. There needs to be, there has to be follow-up, and making sure that the questions we're asking are very intentional, making sure that people are getting the support they need, and that, of course, probably involves some more counseling for the family. Because you can experience a myriad of feelings.
How do you figure out, I think what I wonder about, like, how do you not be in someone's face and be intrusive, but show that I want to be there, I want to help you, but I don't want to invade any sort of, whether it's a coworker, a friend, or a family member, like, to cross that line, that invisible line. But how do I know that I haven't said too much or I haven't said enough?
It's a good question, because I think people, even therapists, get in that space where they're like, oh, I don't know, is this person thinking about suicide? Or where they, there can be this worry of like, what is because you start to maybe view this person as like, oh, this feels like a really fragile situation. I want to make sure that I'm supportive, but maybe not too aggressive or not too in your face. The first I would say is ideally the person, right? You have some understanding of who they are, so you might know like what maybe feels like too much or too little. But I would go back to get comfortable being uncomfortable and asking maybe asking those questions of, hey, I've seen some things happening for you, or I know I've heard you talk about some things, and I'm just curious, are you having any suicidal thoughts? And that might just feel so uncomfortable to ask, which is why when we do trainings, we just say, let's just say it. Let's just keep saying it so that it now becomes so normalized. That it's just easy to say, get over that initial, oh, this was weird. Because in a way, it's like the worst that could happen is they say no, and that's actually a really good thing.
Sure.
But, so becoming comfortable asking maybe some uncomfortable questions. Yeah.
We do have a question, I think. Lori wants to know, well, the feelings go on, and we all start in different places. The guilt was with me for such a long time because I was valedictorian and voted most likely to success in my life was going well. Thank you for sharing that, Lori. I think, like we talked about that window dressing, everything looks good, and you've got this this weight on you.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think, in a way, I'm like, when you are valedictorian and you are like knocking it out of the park, or, it seems like it, I'm almost like you're in an even better position to then, if you can be vulnerable and tell people like, this is a lot harder than it seems, or I'm not always having a great day. I'm not always, I'm struggling with depression. Because you're in this place now of, not to put pressure on you, but like you kind of are in a role model position. And, we see celebrities who talk about this and recognize like there are so many pressures out there on us. That's academic burnout, right? There's professional burnout. There's like life burnout.
And, I want to talk a little bit about something else too, Amanda. One of the things I shared about Josh is saying there's so much ugliness in the world. Don't add to it, right?
Yeah.
We've got all these keyboard warriors out there that just want to like put a negative, something out there. And you don't realize that the words that you are typing out or whatever, how they can really impact somebody. And they do. They
Absolutely.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's everybody's, I'm going to mess up the quote, but it's like everybody's, fighting their own like fight,
yeah.
be kind,
Yes.
right? I think because we forget that what we're doing is we're filling in gaps with assumptions, right? So if you say something maybe on air, I don't necessarily know everything about you. I don't know all your context. I don't know, but I will fill in based off of my assumptions. And then if I felt, like, oh, and then I'm going to go put some information up about you, online, or say
Send
some
some
negative
heat her
things.
way.
Right.
Yes, you don't realize what's kind of, yes.
Absolutely. We
Yeah.
don't realize that there's just so much more to these pictures that we're missing. And I think a lot of times when people are writing stuff like that too, in a way, it's like, well, what do you need? What's your
issue? That's
which is
the
a hard thing to say when you're getting, bullied by someone online, but it's like there's something else happening for them too, that they are so angry about the world.
Yeah. What are we seeing trend-wise, Amanda? I know we've been going on for quite some time, and I feel like I could sit and talk to you about this all day if I had the chance. But I read an article, a 10-year-old died by suicide, who's bullied, and I literally wanted to throw up. I was like, that is horrible. Horrible. But what are we seeing? Just trend. I don't want to say trends, but like
what are the numbers?
Numbers, yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't say that right.
No, and I'm hesitant because I'm like, I don't have the numbers with me.
No. But is it across all ages, all ethnicities? What are we seeing?
I think what we tend to see actually is there can be males, older males specifically, and of course there can be different types of death. Men typically tend to die by suicide with a weapon of some kind. It's rarer for women, but women you might see like, toxins, poisons, medication, etc. So we do see some of those trends coming. And then, of course, we think about, a lot of that has to do with access as well, right? And when people are in a state like that, thinking about, if you're a family or a friend, you might think about, well, what do they have access to?
Sure.
So
and should you stop and think, okay, so-and-so, my uncle is struggling. He has weapons. Should I say, hey, let me hold on to this gun for a little bit. Let's just get over this together. And then, when things are better, you can have it back.
Yeah. I think offering is, again, I'm like, there can be no harm in offering. They might, he might get mad at you. He might say, no, I'm fine. But, to be able to say, look, I'm aware of how these things can play out, and I see the space you're in. Can I hold on to it for you? Or I just want to make sure that you're safe and, that this will pass or this can pass, right?
Patty and Tara, I see your comments. Thank you for sharing them. Such an important topic. Thank you. Tara said, critically important topic to air. And Lori, thank you so much for sharing your condolences. This happened to us here at WAVE a month ago, and I think we were all very much in shock. And it hit us right around Derby time, and it was just full steam ahead. And I wanted to wait and talk about this because I know some of our family team members here, like, it was hard. It was really hard. It was really hard. I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah, absolutely. When you lose someone.
Yeah. Lori, sorry, I'm saying Lori because I saw that. Amanda,
Yes.
Is there anything that I am not asking you that you want our viewers today to know about? I hope that maybe we change someone's mind today.
Absolutely. Yeah, I want to say to those who are, supporters, family members, people in the community, again, talk saves lives. Do not hesitate. Don't be afraid. Maybe practice at home in front of the mirror. You're not going to plant a seed, right?
Is that what a lot of people think?
I think a lot of people worry, like, am I going to plant this seed if they're not feeling that, or, if they're not feeling that way, but I've just put that in there. But having those conversations so that you can open it up, and like I said, it might lead to, I'm not feeling that way, but I am feeling this way, or maybe it helps them reflect on some of their needs. It can just build that conversation. If you are feeling that way, of course, like, there are plenty of resources. There are plenty of people to support you. Again, like American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Mental Health America is great as well.
Mental Health Lou.
Mental Health Lou, yeah. I always forget to plug my own stuff. We have a festival coming up this Sunday, but also in July. It's in July. The Pete Foundation has the Big Stomp, which is also all about suicide prevention. So there's plenty of efforts out there to make sure that people are educated. So take a class if you're curious. If you're like, I don't know how to help somebody. Well, there's QPR trainings, there's Talk Saves Lives trainings. Businesses can bring them in and have them for, their organization. It's like the information is out there. All you have to do is kind of get online and find it. And if you can't find it, come to us and we'll direct you to where you need to be.
Yeah, that's a great resource to have. Amanda, I just want to thank you for coming and talking about this. I spoke to Josh's mom a little bit earlier today, and she just wanted folks to know that, she wanted something out of this tragedy, something positive to come out of it. She wanted us to talk about it too. So she gave us her blessing to do that, which I'm grateful for. And she and Josh's dad, they came here, and they knew why Josh was loved here, because we loved him and we cared about him. How do you not love
that face?
Yeah,
He's such a sweet guy.
Josh was just, he loved doing what he did. He worked at another station here as well, WHAS, and he had been in this market for some time. He was from the Paducah area. He worked there as well, and he was great at what he did. He was passionate about what he did. And anytime there was a dog at the station, Josh would be there like in a heartbeat, like loving on that dog. So Lakota has a new family, and Lakota's doing good too. So I hope Josh knows that we miss him, we love him, and we thank him for everything positive that he brought to our lives. All right. Amanda, thank you so much for talking with me today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.